$10,000 and $19,999.99. And you're supposed to give a memo to the board. And it's supposed to be approved by the executive director and the director of the department. Here is your policy. It already exists. Don't put something on your agenda to make it all look pretty for the public and think that we're not going to figure it out. Because it's already the policy of your district. And just because the president of the board doesn't know how to follow the policies, doesn't mean it doesn't already exist. Thank you.
Tonight I'm here as a citizen and a taxpayer, a person who loves Plainfield. I wasn't sure I could add much more to what I said last month. And you made your comments, and one of the things, that's a conversation that should have happened last night. And I'm a very hopeful person. I'm not a person who gives up on certain things, but I gotta tell you, this ship is sailed. You will never, as a collective board, and as a majority of the three, get public support back on your side. I've tried to talk to people quietly, I've tried to talk to you about it in the beginning of it, and I'm talking to you now as all these other people are. And I know it's falling on deaf ears. But to not say it is a form of condoning it. And you know, the things you think that you should say it, we're saying it. You need, just getting along now, the conversation, getting along to another commissioner, it's too late. That's over. It doesn't matter if you want to stand up here and say you're going to want to be president or vice president or nothing. That part doesn't even matter at this point because you're still a vote on the board. And you guys are, if you really want to do the best interest in this board, you would get off of it. You know, I'm certainly not a literary, especially compared to many people behind me, I'm sure. But when I was thinking about this after last month, there's a John Steinbeck book, East of Eden, and one of the key phrases in that entire book that's about this thick is thou mayest. And thou mayest means free will. You have the free will to make the right decision. Make the right decision, put this to rest, and get off of here. You're never moving ahead. You're never going to resolve this. And now, as a community, it's just going further and further. Everywhere I go, since May, I can tell you everywhere. I go to the Kiwanis, soup it up, I hear about it. I go, no matter where I go, I can go outside of Plainfield, and the first thing somebody will say to me is, what's going on at the park? Since May, I can tell you there hasn't been one single day. And I can tell you, and you know what, you can disagree with what I'm saying here, and you can, just give me the look at me before, and I really don't care. All I know is that this is over. And the longer you drag it on, you guys are the only ones who haven't figured out it's over. So, please, get on. Thank you.
I'm Joe Bostriancic. I've lived in Plainfield for 33 years, and Will County all my life. In fact, I retired from the Plainfield Park District a little more than a year ago. I was actually proud of where I worked and what we accomplished over the years for the communities we served. After seeing what your brand of service has done to the Park District, its employees, and ultimately the community, I am now ashamed to say I had anything to do with Plainfield Park District. I've seen tremendous turmoil in Plainfield and the surrounding area for over my 65 years of life. But this is the worst debacle I have ever seen. The total lack of respect for citizens, the glaring misuse of power, the cronyism, the bending of the truth, the lack of transparency, all in the guise of you're doing nothing wrong, is shameful, and you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You have ignored or tried to silence any questioning of your actions. Other tyrants tried that, and much more against our forefathers. When the United States Constitution was formed, it was essential to first and foremost identify those most aggrieved. Just to remind you, it starts We, the people. Here again, in this conflict, the most aggrieved are we, the people, not you, the politicians. What was once the minority voice has now become the majority voice. Every day, as more and more people learn of your actions, our majority numbers grow. Politicians at all levels and an ever-growing number of common people have come to agree with us. The three must go. We have asked respectfully for your resignations numerous times, but our requests have fallen on your deaf ears. Your arrogance is galling. Therefore, instead of asking, we, the people, now demand your resignations before you ruin the Park District for an entire generation. Let us not be ashamed of our Park District ever again. I ask that all agree with me, please stand and support.
Absolutely.
And they keep going, Peter, and they keep going.
More than 25, I think.
Anyone else would like to make a comment? All right, let's move to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Make a motion. Second? Discussions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Goodman. Yes. Newton. Swansky. Yes. Steinis. Hurtado.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Staff report? Finance department?
In your packet, you received a memorandum for staff, from staff, I apologize, regarding the 6-month budget review that says it December 31st, 2013. And basically what we did is we just looked through each fund and we looked to see, we anticipated where we would be at the end of the fiscal year as of June 30th. And we just pointed out certain line items that would either be 10% over budget or 10% under budget. So we pointed those out to you by the corporate fund and then the recreation fund. And then the recreation department manager prepared a summary of Ottawa Street Pool, the recreation departments, and the Northern Town Classroom Center. And then she also prepared some graphs to compare different fiscal years. So that's basically how we've done it in the past. If there's any further information you wish to have, please let us know. We just continue what we've been doing in the past. And then also attached with that report is the 6-month budget review, budget report.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
I just want to add something to staff reports. This last week, Jean Coldwater, myself, Maureen Nugent, Wendy Calabrese, and Executive Director, Board President Hurtado, actually met with Plainfield Sports Facility Group, and we are looking for further direction from the board as a whole as to whether you would like us to continue the possibility of a public-private partnership within this community for recreational space.
Anybody got questions? No? Okay, so basically what,
We're seeking direction as to whether you would like us to continue investigating whether this would be a possibility for the Park District. And at a further time, we would bring you more information. Because right now, we don't have a lot of information on it. We're in the initial stages of an inquiry from an organization.
Larry?
That's fine.
Sure. Sure. Keep looking at them. Thank you. Commissioner Hill, President's legislative report?
Yeah, there's two bills that are before the General Assembly, one of which is from Senator Bertino Tarrant. She got a bill out of the Senate Local Government Committee on Wednesday. Basically, it allows park districts some flexibility in financing options for the use of promissory notes. Basically, it's just a flexibility option for people, for park districts to pay their bills. Also, there's Tom Cross's bill that came out of the Rules Committee in mid-February. So if you know anything about the General Assembly Rules Rules Committee is usually the place where bills go to die, but this bill came out. It is now assigned to the Cities and Villages Committee. That's House Bill 5593. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Action items, item A, take a motion to approve the time for the non-awards by attending for the fireworks at the head picture. Do I have a motion?
But there's no discussion on it.
First, we'll have a motion in a second, and then
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
all right, now discussion, please? No.
Okay, on the discussion in regards to the bids, I don't know, we only got one price on the fireworks and these selected firework outfits. We need to look at, are these the same or from last year, or is it something fresh, new?
These are the same organizations that I've looked at in the past, for the past number of years, because they are the larger pyrotechnics companies based on the size of our display and what we require of them. These are the companies in our area that are able to provide those services.
Well, there's other places that people find bigger fireworks displays. I'm not sure how far you're looking out in regards to the area, or are you looking out of state, or?
No, based on Illinois licensing, I looked to the fire department and such and asked them who would be the best to perform the service within our state, who are state licensed.
What about these other firework displays in Bolingbrook and Chicago?
They utilize generally one of these three companies. These are the three largest providers in the area, in the Chicagoland area.
And based on your quotes, so the dollar amount was 17,000?
Yes, 17,000.
And that's based on all three? And then same
Yes,
year?
all of them based on the same dollar amount. What was sent out to them, actually asked that each of them quote what we could get for the $17,000 amount. Because pyrotechnics are very difficult to compare apples to apples because it's an entertainment type of service. I asked that they tell me how many shots or shells, bangs for our buck that we can get for a $17,000 show. That's how I've done it in the past, and when I asked the board last month, that was the general direction that I was given, so I did that same thing again this year.
How many shots and shells? They specify what type, what they do?
Yes, that's detailed in your report, which are
No,
multi-shot.
I see the shot sizes, but then you detail on what, how, as it blows up and so here, what it does, there's different types of
Exactly,
round
that's why
shells.
it's very difficult to compare when you get quotes on a pyrotechnics display. A lot of agencies look at it as professional services and do not require us to go out for quote for it. But because I was not sure of any other way to look at this equally across the board, this was the one way that I was able to come up with to look at it and get a comparison, so to speak. Our event producer, the event producer who has produced the show for us for the last 15 years, is in the audience tonight. He may be able to speak more to shell comparison,
Okay,
if you would like to hear from him.
I would.
Okay. Wynn? This is Wynn Kramer, who is the event producer from Malmo's Pyrotechnics, who has done our show for the last 15 years? 16 years.
In regards to types of shells and so forth, I'm sure, they got different colors and so forth. Like I said, there's also different combination shells, different repeaters.
Well, what we do, and we have kind of the luxury of that being one of the bigger companies as far as fireworks go. We carry 8 different lines, 8 different manufacturers of product, which is somewhat unusual because a lot of companies can't do that because it's too expensive. But from our body of work that we do, we have a lot of multiple type events like White Sox, Navy Kicker, where you're doing a lot of shows over the course of the week. So we do carry a lot of different fireworks. And, especially for, we tailor the fireworks to the venue. And so we tweak as we go on, and we replace 10-15% of our product line every year with new products. So we're constantly adding new things for you to see.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that, instead of having to keep the same old variety, something that's,
We can't do that because you're always under scrutiny for that. An example like I'm talking about, as an example, like Navy Pier during the summer, we're there twice a week. So, you can't, or like baseball teams, you're doing a lot of shows. King County Cougars do 30 shows a year. you've got to show something different, consistent. You can't, you can't, because people notice that stuff, so.
Right. That's what I thought about,
Yeah.
being here from out, being out here, you know, have some kind of variety or something, a little more spectacular. Something that maybe, surprising people out there that, wow, you know,
I
that wow
I
factor.
would say that our community has had that wow factor for the last number of, since we've had the show every year, it's a different show for us. Melrose is one of the companies in the area that actually synchronizes their display. And as long as the DJ and the music work accordingly to the fire, which we have had some issues in the past, it's a choreographed show, which is something, a lot of shows are set to music, but choreographed is a slightly different animal. And that's something that I think we've been very lucky to have for our community, which gives it that wow factor. For those of you who have been in the show, or at the show in the past, I think that's evident.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussions?
I have a question for the chair. Basically, if I was a fireworks company, how would I submit a bid?
Throughout the year, I get phone calls from people, and if they want to bid, they just need to let me know, and I add their name to a list.
And what do you consider when you're selecting, or among the various companies?
I thought I grabbed that, way a little bit. The email that goes out to each company, I send it out based on an email address, and I send out the exact same email to every company. And it states that I am seeking a quote for the following: July 3rd, 2014, choreographed musical aerial display, approximately 18 to 20 minutes. Soundtrack for display must be approved by the Park District staff by May 1st, 2014, and coordinated with on-site DJ on July 3rd, 2014. Electronically fired for safety purposes. Launch site is approximately 1/4 mile from the viewing area. Shell size not to exceed a 6-inch. Value of show is to be $17,000. Please include a breakdown of shell counts in proposal. References must also be included. That is the information that goes out to each company that I request a quote from.
Those are restrictions of 6 inches, is that the requirement for town, village, or?
For safety reasons, we've asked them to restrict it to 6-inch because I would say probably about 9 years ago, we did get some overhead drift that drifted into one of the neighborhoods. So we decided we weren't going to go with the maximum shell size that was available. We were going to keep it to a 6-inch shell size, so even if there was overhead wind drift, that we would not reach the neighborhoods that were adjacent.
Even with, you get some of that debris coming down regardless, even when it's a 6-inch or.
Right, there is debris that falls no matter what, but based on the 6-inch and the height, it was a little bit more controlled. And that was through a discussion with Deputy Chief Stratton.
Okay, so it was a fire.
Yeah,
Decision.
it was through a discussion with him.
Gotcha.
Right, thank you. Any other discussions?
Mr. President, I just have one comment. This is the first that I've seen in the contract, so I would suggest any motion be to approve it subject to attorney review and comment.
Okay, good. Any other discussions? Hearing none? Roll call, please.
Can we have a motion?
Oh, yeah, we have a motion.
I'll make the motion, we approve the contract with Melrose
Let's-
Pyrotechnics for fireworks.
Let's remove our second.
Remove our first motion. The first motion.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
Peter. I seconded
Peter, you have,
No, we have motion.
who is the second?
Mary.
Mary, who joined, Mary? All right. So now,
Okay, so I'll make the motion, we approve the contract with Melrose Pyrotechnics for fireworks at the Patriotic Picnic with attorney review, subject to attorney review.
okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ruderman. Yes. Newton.
Yes.
Solosky. Yes. Steines.
Yeah.
Hurtado.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, item B, seeking a motion to adopt resolution 2014-02. Resolution to amend the Plainfield Township Park District Form Manual. Does relate to the board president and the vice president who serve 1 year term. Do I have a motion?
I take that motion.
Do I have a second? Discussions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ruderman. Yes. Newton.
Yes.
Solosky. Steines.
Here.
Hurtado.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item C, seek a motion to consider resolution 2014-03, resolution amended the Plainfield Township Park District Board manual, and this relates to purchase between the $10,000 and $19,999 for the any purchase of the above amount requires approval by the Board of Commissioners. The department head and executive director requesting such purchase shall present a memo to the board, which will include 3 quotes and detail the reason for the purchase as well as the fund from which the money for the purchase has been allocated. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
I guess my question is why, what was wrong with the current policy with regards to those dollar limits that we need to revise?
The issue that was brought up was, I know it was raised up in public comments as well. The way the policy is written right now, you don't have to come to staff to get approval for it. You just need to get, so what we're saying now is that it would have to go to the board. In other words, previously what we said was that you just have to tell the board. This says you can tell the board. So that's one of the main differences between what was current and what the proposal.
So was there anything wrong with the policy as it was written, or as it is written currently? I mean, is it just, this is an extra layer of protection, or?
I feel this is another layer for the board to be in charge of this. I think the board should have the authority to do the contract anything above $10,000.
Well, I was on the board at the time when we revised the policy in the first place, and I believe that the state law allowed us to raise the limit from 10 to 20,000 for notifying the board, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Michelle was on the board as well. She's not here anymore.
Yes.
That was one of the changes, and we kept the policy at the time to require staff to notify the board of purchases, that at that certain level. So we maintained the level of the purchasing policy, even though state law allowed us to loosen it up a little bit. So I think, I guess I'm still at a loss as to why this is necessary, as long as we have people in place who are going to follow the policy.
This is just in case we don't have the right people in place.
Like now.
All right, any other comments?
My understanding is that this 10,000 to 19,000 threshold limited staff from doing some of their day-to-day operations if they had to come to the board for approval every time they needed something in that price range. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that part of the reasoning?
What would cost over $10,000?
We went,
I'm sorry?
I didn't hear what you said.
What would cost over $10,000 on a daily basis?
They had a air conditioning fail, I know, at one point.
$10,000. About 3 or 4. I'm saying, if it comes down to that kind of money, why would it have to be paid in one day, where, as I said, it could come up at the monthly, board to be paid, because you got time to pay.
Except when an emergency comes up.
Right.
Well, in case of the electric, it's a different story.
I believe in May that there were 3 air conditioning units that had to be replaced immediately, and they exceeded that limit.
Right, and I think we have already addressed that issue of the purchasing manual that says in case of emergency, they have to notify the president or board or something. But we already addressed that issue.
But in any case, like I said, you still always have time to make your payments, on any matters, any purposes. You got it.
All right, any other discussions? Here none, roll call please.
Ludeman,
No.
Newton,
No.
Solosky,
No.
Steinis,
Here.
Hurtado,
Yes.
motion fails.
Alright, item 10, discussion for items, future service with each other sign group.
Steve is back again. We had some requests at the last meeting. We had a little talk about retaining Hitchcock or not retaining Hitchcock. I'm not a planner. We really don't have a planning department or a planner on staff where I could get you the details of that here, because I would like to. So what I did is I invited Steve back. Steve is working on 2 projects for us. He's pretty much in the middle of both of those. And if it's a board decision, of course, I'll respect that decision, but if Steve goes away for whatever reason, I'm sure both projects will be extended quite a bit. But I'd like to have Steve come up if that's possible, just to give brief detail on what he's doing and answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Gene. So last time we were before the board, we were looking just for, I believe, what was requested, is kind of a general extension of our services to continue just providing consulting services on an hourly basis. And requested to come back with a more specific scope and fee. So that's what's before the board tonight. And we kept this to a 90-day period, knowing that there's some unknowns really on what's going to happen long-term with your planning and the assistance that might be required. The 3 projects that we're proposing that we continue our assistance with is the DuPage River Trail, which is currently in the process of having bid documents completed and would be prepared to have ready by near the end of March. And so we would continue assisting coordination of the bid package, the bidding phase, and then the bid award. The second project is the DuPage River Trail Bridge, and that one's currently in the design phase. So in the next 90 days, we'd be helping to assist. We're doing designs, coordinating the schedule, and moving forward through the final design. And then the last one is a smaller effort. It's the Eaton Preserve Emergency Trail Access, and that one we reported out on last time, where there's the Ryan Homes is looking to do the development there, and they're required to have a second emergency access. And as part of doing that, they want to negotiate with the Park District to have that through the Eaton Preserve, and in negotiation of doing that, they would construct the path, and the path would be used as a multi-use trail. We're still in negotiations really with them, the village and the fire district, on what's going to be acceptable. So we don't have a recommendation this time to the park board if we want to accept that, their offer. But we continue coordinating with them to hopefully bring that to the next board meeting. The other thing that has to occur over the course of the 2 DuPage River Trail projects is there's several stakeholders that are involved. Meetings that have to happen with village staff and the Riverfront Foundation to coordinate not just the design work, but the schedule and what occurs with that and the funding sources. So we'll continue on those 3 projects for the next 90 days, and depending on what occurs with your planning needs, we either come back before you at the end of 90 days if you still need continued assistance, or at that time our services would just stop if you've already got something else in place that would work for that. So at this point in time, just open up for any questions you might have.
So the $15,000 that we're seeking, the staff is seeking an approval for the 90-day period. These 2 projects, would that basically eat up the $15,000, or is the $15,000 in excess of these 2 tasks?
It's the 3 tasks, DuPage River Trail, the Trail Bridge, and Eaton Preserve. And we're basing it on sort of what we've been under hourly services since December. And to date, over the course of almost 2 months here, we've accrued about $6,000. So we feel that basically that averages out to about $5,000 a month, which because it's a little bit higher than that, we feel that it'll cover you without us having to come back to the board to request an extension. And really, though, that the hourly effort would be controlled and directed by Gene as far as how much of our time he wants from us.
So what is the hourly rate of the personnel that we work on these projects?
I can get you that rate sheet, but we've got I myself am a principal, and I believe, like I said, I'll have to double check, but I think our hourly rate is $180 for the principal effort. And then we have senior associates and associates that would be assisting on the project. And the senior associates are, I think, 150, and the associates are around 125. And I